this little town of Applewood. But out of that 45, 40 of us are related through marriage. They're married to each other's relatives. Not directly related to each other, but everybody's related to each other. And so I thought first I would tell you about Appleby, this little teeny town in Sweden where the Johnsons, the Carlsons, the Larsons all came from, and a little bit about that place. And first of all, how we found it is that when I was traveling in a musical show in the 70s, I remember Grandpa Clarence saying something about Appleby. And I was in Norway with some kids, and we were driving a BMW. A new one from the factory, silver BMW. Kids in their 20s.
Is that you, young?
And I said,
one more D.
Grandpa said something about Appleby. Can we find it on a map? And my Norwegian friends took out one map, it wasn't there. It was so small. And then they looked again, there was no internet. And then we found this town of Appleby. We had a couple days before we had to put the BMW on the ship to get back to the state of Washington. So we said, we'll drive through Sweden, we'll find Appleby, and we'll leave. We went there, and there was a church there, there was a cemetery there. It happened to be midsummer, and that's when the young people who speak English were home. I had not a clue of Swedish at that time. And so we went to the church, and I sort of went to one lady and said, do you know anything about a Pete Larson or anything? She ran away. She didn't speak any English, and I couldn't do anything there. She ran away, and an old lady came up to me and said, I only speak a little English, but my son, he speaks good English. That lady, Karen Zars, actually is related to all the Johnsons. And her son was Leif Zars, who many of you have met because he's been to Lake Park so many times. He's one of the historians there who knows all about your ancestors. He's incredible. So we went, she said, you come to my house. Because her son was out for a run. We went to their house, and when the son came back from his run, I saw that his dad, Paul Zars, walked back and forth and walked back and forth and walked back and forth. And he said, Lake Park, Minnesota, you heard the port from that. Lake Park, I've heard of that. I bet. I've heard of that. I've heard of that. This woman is sort of a Satan. She's given a story. So he said, let's call up Victor Heinstedt. We went over to Victor Heinstedt's other's house. He says, yeah, Lake Park. I was there in the 1930s. And he had the picture. In fact, it was the very same picture you showed of the Larsons with Grandma Mabel in it. And he said, how did you get, this is my grandma in this picture and great grandma Ida. And he said, yeah, I was there in the 1930s. And he said, the people came from Sweden. Many went to Lake Park when they came, then they the Swedish people sort of wrote them off and said they went to America and they didn't follow them anymore. And the Swedes, they lost track. They wrote to their brothers and sisters, and they got too old, and they lived here, and they had their children, and they lost track, and they sort of lost connection. So we went to the Midsummer Fest, and all of a sudden people came and said, I think you're so-and-so related, I think so-and-so, and this is so-and-so, and this is so-and-so, they're related to you. One person came up and gave me the list and had names of people from my high school class. Someone just sort of followed it. And then a couple years later, we invited people over to Lake Park for the centennial. And then something happened. And that they performed, and one of the ladies brought a book with her about And then, all of a sudden, all the old people started speaking not Swedish. We said they spoke Swedish. They spoke Apple. They spoke the language of the town. And they did the same thing as we do here. They say, oh, nice weather. Yeah, nice weather. They talk about the same kinds of things we do, but their life is different. Their coffee is very strong. From the years about 1868 to right before 1900, about 700 people from this little village left. The town now has only about 1,200 people in it. Lots of them ended up in the Lake Park area or passed through the Lake Park area. This little town called Appleby is sort of like a flat valley, and it's surrounded by not tall mountains, but if you look in the distance, they call them the Blue Berge. They call them the Blue Mountains, and it looks like it's these blue mountains all around it. They have a famous lake there, famous for Appleby, Bouchon. They have a little mountain that's been a ski hill, and now there's wind towers, wind turbines on it, called Hunflin. When Agnes went there, she said, my grandparents, my ancestors talked about Bouchon and Hunflin, and I never got to. Now I finally got to see it. And the people of Appleby were kind of like the country people. They weren't the rich people. They were the people like who lived in Lake Park. Okay? They were the country people. They weren't the rich farmers. The rich farmers lived around this Lake Sillian, about an hour away by car. Lake Sillian, and they were from Rättvik and Leksand. They had fancy clothes or whatever, and Appleby was just like the poor people. And in the summertime, the girls would go up in the mountains with the cows and stay there for the entire summer. And they were the fabulous. And they would go stay up there, make milk, make cheese, and make milk. And the boys would try and sneak up there. so their boyfriends would come up and visit them. Appleby was famous for this story they have, and it's a play that's done every summer called Trollbröllopet. It means the troll wedding. And there is a little teeny tiny crown in the church. So if you're married in the Appleby church, you, the bride, wear this crown. And the real story is they think they got it in the Crusades back in the 1400s or 1500s. But they turned into this story about the troll. And it was the girl, the Appleby girl, loved the poor Appleby farmer. Her dad said, no, you're going to marry this rich guy from Rättvik or Leksand. And so they were at the wedding, the woman in her bridal dress wearing this with no crown. And the king of the trolls who lived in the mountains wanted that woman as his wife. So the trolls came in and asked her, she was going to the wedding, and they came and kidnapped her and took her away. End of the story is the poor Appleby boy saved her, and they had a crown on from the troll. So that was her wedding gift from the troll. Saved the woman, and came back, and then the dad said, okay, you can marry this Appleby boy. So this play is put on every summer for 3 or 4 days in early August, and it is done in Appleby Mole. That's the language of Appleby. Okay, Patsy. So Patsy goes to Sweden. Yes, you were there. Yep. And Patsy goes to Stockholm, and Patsy speaks Appleby Mole. Patsy went to Stockholm and talked to people, and they didn't know what in the hell she's talking about. She was in Lake Park, we didn't know either, but and then, so she thought I spoke Swedish. She spoke Swedish because of the grammatication, right? They had to speak, because she just spoke Appleby Mole, okay? We thought it was Swedish, okay? It is almost like a separate language. All of the Swedes can understand, all the Appleby can understand Swedish and talk Swedish, but they have their own language, Appleby Mole. Patsy went to I happened to be there with Clarence Swenson at the same time. She went to the one little grocery store in Appleboo, and she said just a little bit of a sentence, and the woman who had lived there her entire life said, Appleboo. She was in total shock because a woman she had never ever seen in her whole life was speaking the language of that town. It was just a total shock. One time I went to the Stockholm Marathon with a whole bunch of Appleboo young people who were runners. I wasn't a runner, I drank beer. But we'd go out in the night and they would speak Appleboo, and the other people would say, where are you from? We don't know what you're talking about. Because they could speak, everybody speaks Swedish. The only thing is, right now, the language is dying, and there's less than 10 children in it. Maybe the elementary school has 100 kids in it. There's less than 10 who speak Appleboo. So the language is dying. Patsy is one of the ones who speaks old Appleboo. When people from there came here, when they listened to her, or they listened when all our grandparents and parents were alive, they would listen to them and go, oh my gosh, there's a new word, an old word for spider, for example. And we haven't heard that for years, because the language changed over time. So they would write down, when the immigrants came here, they spoke Appleboo, and then they changed to English. The language never changed, because it changed to the different language. In Appleboo, it changed, and it slowly become more and more Swedish. And these immigrants, for example, when they came, there were no cars. Okay? So when the Swedes came here, they wondered why all the Swedes were talking about a car. Because in Sweden, when cars came, they named it bil. And so they found that the language had stopped. It stopped here in Lake Park. So Appleboo was noted for several different things. Horses. Many people were horse traders there. And soldiers. Not necessarily, they didn't have to be from that town, but lots of people from Appleboo would have soldiers live at their houses, or they'd be the support for those soldiers. So some people would take soldiers' names, like Selbert was a soldier's name, and they had the old ladies, the people were poor, that lots of the old ladies, or young ladies, would walk from village to village with a bag of goods on their back, and or things that they could sell to try to get money. So interesting, when they came to Lake Park, of course, there were no cars. They had to have horses. But the guy who is Sven Persson, F. Peter Persson, buried out here, he lived where Jorgensen's were, where Larry Jorgensen lives now. They called him a yes giver. He called them the Yankees from Cormorant. And they would be like going to Lake Park or something. They would get as far as his place, leave their horses there. He'd have fresh horses. They'd go to Lake Park, do their things, and then they'd come back there, and then they'd get their own horses back because they were arrested. Sometimes they'd stay with them. So he was almost like a little teeny hotel in that, and exchange of horses. And their horses, so this is several generations back. The horses were crossing right behind us. There's this little point in the lake, here, this point in the lake. One time the team was going across the lake. I think they were going to DeLoyne's house. They're going, and the ice broke and the horses drowned. So they got the sleigh out right away, and then they had to work to get they had the horses out of the water. And somewhere in our basement, we still have the blanket made from the horse hide of those horses. Yep. Okay, so the names changed. In Sweden, if you were Lars's son, your name was Larsson, or if you were the daughter, you were Lars Dotter. You were Lars's daughter. And then, so if you were Anders Larson, your son would be Anderson, because you were Anders' son. So the last name changed with every generation. So to follow who was what family, they went by the name of their farm. So some farms had the name of the location, some farms took the name of the soldiers that lived with
I
them.
didn't know that there was
So
two
Selbert
kinds
was
of
the soldier's
Swedes.
name.
Apple.
Swan
My dad
was
taught
on the
that
farm.
too, because that's
There's
Kisti is.
Swan,
My
and
grandpa had
had
Kisti,
no Pellis,
her
Canute,
sister
Miracle, Nolfar, Coy, Lindstrom,
something.
Hairhold, Bruce, Ovidio Olsen was Bruce, I think. Nieces, Opsa, Moore, Trunders, that's the Johnson, Trunbach, that's some of the Larsons, Branch, Bellum, Mossfellet, Samsa. There were many farm names, so they knew who you were, even if you had a different last name than your dad. They knew who you were because of your farm name. Oh, those are Samsa people. Oh, those are Moss people. Those are Moore people. Those are the Branch. Those are the Bellum. Then when they came to the U.S., they did what we do right now. If you were an Olsen, your dad was an Olsen, you're an Olsen. Then they're an Olsen, and they're an Olsen. So the name, the last name stays. If you're Carlson, you're Carlson, 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 as long as it follows the name. About this apple war. One time at the place we were at the picnic, when the Swedes first came here in 1881 to speak, about 30 of them at the dancers. I had known Clarence and Agnes my whole life. I had known my grandpa and grandma, Clarence and Mabel, my whole life. And they went to this picnic with the Swedes.